And for more on this, Nancy Grace is the host of Crime Stories on Fox Nation. And Nancy, as this news happens just as we are right here live on air in Northport, Florida, searching the home again. There's so much to ask you. Let's just get your take on what they might be looking for at the home.
Well, number one, with all of the press and citizens outside the home, how did Laundrie get out and nobody noticed? That place has been staked out 24/7. Did he really go to Carlton Reserve? Why do we believe that other than that's what the parents said? I don't understand how the car could have left with him in it and then the parents bring it back and nobody sees any of this happening. I'm also very concerned about the condition in which Gabby was found, her remains. Was she buried? Was she at the bottom of a ravine? Was she attacked by animals? Did she die from the elements? Because if Gabby was buried, then she was murdered. That's what I need to find out.
So the autopsy will be done tomorrow. And I understand, they have to wait a little while. The police seem to feel pretty sure about this, so no doubt the family is very devastated. Interestingly, in this case, Nancy, these bloggers are looking back through their video, their travel video. These are civilians, and they see the van, and then they look and a little bit closer, they see the hat that was also in other photographs that we had of the van or video. Then they see sandals that seem to match the ones that Gabby had. So they were critically important to getting to this point where the FBI was able to find the body.
Yes, and I don't want to be too hard on them not finding the body earlier because this is a huge, thousands and thousands of acres. And remember, they were in dispersed camping, which means they're not where the laundry or the porta potties or the trash is. They're beyond that, way off the grid. And I just say thank God that a blogger saw that and posted it, or another camper, because that really helped them hone in. But the nature of the discovery of the body is going to be critical. They had up a tent, so you couldn't really see what is going on. But back to Laundrie, I'm suspicious, was he ever even in Carlton Reserve? And here's something else for you to think about. Has anybody seen him at all since he got home on September 1? How long has he really been gone? Remember, the parents wouldn't let the cops in the home. They wouldn't let them see Laundrie. They wouldn't let them see Laundrie or talk to him. Has he been gone this whole time?
Trace, go ahead with your question, and then I'll follow up.
I was just curious because Nancy, Trace Gallagher, I think I'm fascinated by the whole thing, and people forget that that Gabby Petito actually lived in this house with the Laundrie family before they went on this 5-month thing. So he comes home on September 1st, and there's no questions. Where's Gabby for 10 days until the family finally decides to report her missing. But the question in all of this, you made a very good point. There had to be eyes on this house. Maybe they couldn't talk to the guy because of his constitutional rights. Maybe they couldn't have a warrant to get all the electronics, but there had to be eyes on this house, and it's very difficult to believe that Brian Laundrie, with the help of his parents or not, just decided to go to some reserve and take a hike while nobody saw him leave in and out. It just doesn't make sense. And then you're right, the car going back and forth is weird.
Yeah, how do you miss that? I'm curious, are there cameras at Carlton Reserve? Because I've been to a lot of hiking spots and there are no cameras. It's a bunch of trees. They don't have surveillance video on it. It's nature. So if there's not surveillance cameras, then that's a problem. But how about in the neighborhood? Could you see him driving in and out on Ring doorbells? Was it even him, or has he been gone since September 1 and have the parents been covering for him?
Well, Nancy, you think back to last week when Laundrie's sister did an interview with Good Morning America, and she said that she had not been allowed to see him either, right?
Right, because was he not there? I mean, you have to think back. Number one, establish your timeline. We don't even have a timeline because nobody can say, other than the parents, that they have seen Brian Laundrie. Why?
Well, go ahead, Trace.
Nancy, you've covered a lot of this stuff, and you know, I know you look at this scene and you're wondering, why is the FBI there now? Why is the FBI going back in the house? What are they looking for now? Have they exhausted the search for the Carlton Reserve? And what's next? What did they believe the parents are not telling them? The parents did not cooperate at all, nor did Brian Laundrie, and now suddenly the FBI is on the premises. They are scouring this house. What information have they gleaned, maybe from the other side of the country in Wyoming, more about the condition of Gabby Petito's body? But what have they gleaned that's making them present themselves to the house right now, in your estimation?
It could be a matter of getting the necessary warrants. I believe they could have gotten the warrants way back when, but maybe they know more than we do. I'm sure that they do. I think warrants should have been gotten on the parents, their phones, their emails, their texts, the works, to find out where she was. But now that her body has been found, this whole thing is a whole nother can of worms, because we're talking about now a potential homicide. And I'm telling you, what they found out there may have led them to believe she didn't die of natural causes. This is a homicide, and now they're trying to get all that, let's just say their laptops, their iPads, everything, even their Alexa. What was said in the home? That could be gotten pursuant to warrant. Think.
Nancy, the other thing that happened is we found out that he hitchhiked at one point and was picked up. And the woman, Miranda, who was on Good Morning America today, who picked him up, said that he, when they said they were going to Jackson, he got agitated and wanted to get out of the car. What might investigators glean from that?
And did get out of the car, and he didn't just get out of the car, he got out of the car to hitch a different ride. He didn't want to go anywhere near Jackson, and this is what I find very critical about that. He had said he and Gabby had been sleeping on a tarp, that's not all that uncommon, because you usually put a tarp underneath your tent, but sleeping on a tarp out on the Snake River. Miranda, the TikTok girl, says he was clean, he didn't smell bad, he looked freshly showered. How is that when you've been out on a tarp on the Snake River? Where had he really been, and why didn't he want to get close to Jackson, near where Gabby was found?
And I think one of the key parts of this investigation right now is you talk about Carlton Reserve, and for context and people who don't know the area and don't know anything about that, you're talking about 83 some miles of hiking trails in and around that reserve. And what they're saying now is, you know what, there's a belief that he's not there. So he's somewhere else, and somebody, if he is somewhere else, somebody in that house knows where or has an inkling of where that somewhere else might be. I think is that a proper assessment in your view, Nancy?
I think you're right, and I also think that you'll have to pull their fingernails off before they say anything else about their son. And I also think that's why, as you accurately pointed out earlier, the sister wasn't allowed to see him, because either A, he wasn't there, or B, they didn't want her to have knowledge that could put her under a cloud of suspicion. So I think what they found out in Wyoming made them believe this could be a homicide, and it's taken on an entirely different character, and that's why the feds are on their doorstep in their home right now. That's what you don't want to see, to
Nancy,
open up the door and there's 3 feds there.
Nancy, we have some breaking news out of Northport. If you could just hold on for a moment. Let's get back to Carly Shimkus. Of course, you've been there from the beginning, Carly. So what is happening right now in the home?
Well, there's a bit of activity that just unfolded outside the Laundrie family home. First of all, like I said before, FBI agents entered the home. One of them had a bag and an envelope. They also brought several other things in, like chairs and a folding desk and other equipment. And then at 9:48 a.m. Eastern time, Brian Laundrie's parents were rushed out. They were put in this black Dodge Caravan with tinted windows. It's still in the driveway. That car hasn't moved, but the parents have moved from inside the house to outside the house. They're sitting in that black Dodge Caravan with tinted windows right now. And all of this is unfolding in a cloud of somewhat secrecy. We don't know exactly why the FBI has decided to do that, but One of the big surprising developments that came down just a few hours ago was that the police, the Northport police, called off the search for Brian in this area. They say that they're not searching the Carlton Reserve anymore today, but they are still going to be looking for him in general. So something made the police feel like they've exhausted this area enough. They called off the search this morning. Just to give a timeline, a couple hours later, the FBI goes to the Laundrie family home, and they are inside the house right now.
Thank you, Carly. And Nancy, one of the things about this Carlton Reserve is that there's a lot of standing water because of the recent hurricanes. Why would they call off the search there for today?
Well, I can tell you this much from my own searches. Scent dogs, tracker dogs, bloodhounds, they can smell underwater. They can smell the scent of a dead body or a live person on the water. That's a myth, that they stop when they see water. So the fact that it's covered in water, it will slow it down immensely, but it won't stop a tracker dog. That tells me more, not about the conditions. It's swamp to start with, but with all the water, a lot of the trails are underwater. But with all the rain, a lot of the trails themselves are underwater. They don't think he's there. I don't know if he ever was there. And I wonder if they tracked around where his car had been and got nothing. And that's how they know he wasn't there.
I'm fascinated by the fact that Carly was just reporting, Nancy, that the parents are now outside in the car, which is an indication the FBI wants to be alone in that house. They want the run of the house, and now they have it. And I'm also wondering why the parents were not separated, why they weren't put in separate cars. I know we're not calling them suspects, but as a rule, in these types of warrant searches, investigations, the parents are normally taken away and put in separate areas so that there's no coordination of any kind of stories or anything else. I'm wondering if you're struck by that, or is it just me?
I am struck by it, but I think their target right now is to have free run, as you said, of the home. I do think the parents are going to be questioned, but I don't think they're going to get anything else out of those parents. I think they've already been questioned, and they've been wrung like a rag. They're not going to say anything else. So that's why they're in a vehicle together. I'm wondering if they're going to take them away for further questioning, for instance, at HQ headquarters. But it seems to me that just the search is going down right now because they would have already taken them. They would already be on their way for questioning, and a different team would be searching the house. I'm very curious about what they're bringing out.
Well, Nancy, it is interesting because, as Carly reported, that the parents say that they went to he was gone. They went and found his car. They left it overnight, and then they went and they got the car. There was a note on the car. They brought the car back. If that turns out not to be true, what else are we dealing with?
Well, another thing, reports are that one of the notes, if there were in fact two, but there was a note from police saying you can't leave your car here. You're going to have to move it. You know, like one of those little yellow notices they tell you when you park somewhere too long. To that effect, and that the parents still left it there, and then when he didn't come back, they came and brought it home. Again, I find, how did they get it out? With a cloak of invisibility? Where was the car all this time? And more important, where is Laundrie? I don't know that he was ever in the home.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.